Great. So in terms of the agenda, the first hour is going to be broken into 4 segments where you're going to hear top-line information from representatives of each area of the academic internship process. So first we have Nicole Black from the Graduate Academic Advising and Engagement Office. Nicole, wave. Oh, yeah, there she is. We have 2 faculty internship advisors. We have Professors Claude Cicchetti. If you can wave too, there's Claude. And we have Professor Scott Boss. Thanks for being here. And for our international students and for everybody, we have Brittany Mackey from the Center for International Students and Scholars, waving you, and myself from the Graduate Career Development Office, and also Laura Aiken. So if you haven't seen Laura, Laura actually is our director in the Grad Career Development Office, and she has nicely offered to man our chat and to be an assist should we need it. So in terms of, again, the agenda, after each segment, we are going to pause for a bit of Q&A. So just to kind of break things up a bit, if you have questions, feel free to ask at that point. Also at 12 p.m., about 12 p.m., we're going to put into the chat the Zoom links to 3 breakout rooms where your second-year peers will be waiting to share their internship success stories with you. So we encourage you, regardless of their background and where they work, you know, they have a lot to share, so we encourage you to visit them all. And just to remind you that the main room, our room right here, will still be here. So through 12:30 for whoever's able to stay, in terms of the speakers, we'll be here to answer your questions as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Everybody okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Thank you. In terms of a little bit of Zoom housekeeping, to make it easier for you to view, you know, your choice, but we encourage you to have speaker view as opposed to gallery view. You should have noticed that the chat function is enabled. So certainly feel free to put any of your questions into the chat throughout the program. Your microphones have been muted. So just to make sure that we don't have a lot of feedback, but certainly you will be able to unmute if you'd like to during the Q&A. And the session is being recorded right now. So just to say that if you do and would like to refer to it later, we'll make it available at a later date. Okay, sound good? Great. So thank you very much for joining us on a Friday. We're going to get started with Nicole Black from Graduate Academic Advising and Engagement. And I'm just going to put up her, launch your link. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So it's coming. Hold on one second.
Well, hello, everybody. As Audra said, my name is Nicole Black, and I work with Graduate Student Academic and Engagement. We changed our office name, so I have to sometimes remember it. So basically, to get started, I will talk about the academic portion of the internship for credit. So if you are doing an internship and you want to count it for credit toward your degree, you can, and there is a process. So I just want students to know that you can't just register yourself for the internship for credit. It's an approval process. And so our website, as you can see, the first step is to, I always tell students the hardest part is just getting the internship. But, once you've secured and it's a legitimate internship, now is just basically the paperwork that needs to occur for you to actually count it towards your degree requirements. So it's important that with these internships or credits, the first step is once you've gotten the internship for credit, now there's a form that has to be completed. So if you're domestic, there's a 1-part process. If you are a international student, there's a 2-part process that most likely Brittany will speak to a little later. So with every student, the first step is the internship for credit form. And what this is that we first have to make sure academically you meet the requirements. So the first academic requirement is that you need to ensure that you have a 3.0. So we do require that in order to do an internship for credit, you have a 3.0. In the event you have an internship and you don't, we then direct you to speak to the internship coordinator, because truly they will have to decide if based on your GPA, they still feel comfortable with you pursuing this. So I'd even recommend if your GPA is not at a 3.0 yet and you're looking for a job and you don't think it's going to be a 3.0 by the time the internship you start, definitely talk to the internship coordinator beforehand just to make sure there's no issues, so that when you get the job, then there becomes an issue, because academically we do have to really vet to make sure everything's on par. So again, you need to have a 3.0. And we do recommend that it's not your first semester at Bentley. Absolutely. We do recommend that it's your second. If you're an F1 visa student, there are some residency requirements that you need to obtain before you can do an internship for credit. For domestic students, same thing. Definitely, we recommend you talk to career services, and then depending on your degree, there are some little rules as well. But again, my office is always available to help you with that process. So you filled the internship for credit. We have to make sure that, one, you have the GPA, and then also, two, we determine where it would fall in line of your degree. So depending on your degree, that is the internship you should do. So if you're in business analytics, you would have to do a stat one. If you're finance, you would do a finance. If you're accounting, it would be an accounting. So your internship has to be within your degree, within the subject of your degree, in order for it to count. If you are a domestic student, you would do a 3 credit. If you're an international student, we give you the option to do a 3 or a 1. And a lot of times students get confused, like, what's the difference? And I usually tell students that really it's the difference between the 3 credit and the 1 credit really depends on kind of how strategically you want to finish your degree. So the 1 credit was created to really give international students a second opportunity to do an internship for credit. So don't really get caught up in what the 3 or 1. So that's why, as you can see, the internship and directed study, mostly we say please schedule an appointment with us, so that we can help you figure out what makes sense in your academic record. So then after you finish the internship for credit form, and then you meet with us, then you would meet with the step 5 internship coordinator. I apologize, I went off a little. When you've been doing this for so long, you just kind of speak to it, and then you're like, oh, there's a slide in front of me. So I apologize. But as you can see, I'm just kind of speaking to each step. So after you make the advising appointment, we help you figure out if it should be a 3 or 1. Then the next step is then we direct you to then meet with your internship coordinator. And so the internship for credit form we complete, you would then bring that form to the internship coordinator, and right there, and you would just meet with the internship coordinator, and we always will help you too as well, figure out who that is, and then you would make sure with the internship for credit form, then with your offer letter, you would then meet with the internship coordinator. If you're an international student, you also need to fill out the CPT form that needs to also go to the internship coordinator. You'd meet with the internship coordinator, you would discuss it. Now, again, it is a class. Keep that in mind, because you're taking it for credit. So there is an academic requirement, there's a syllabus, and that's the internship coordinator that you would work with on that. Then the internship for credit form goes to the dean, who then would sign it. And then from there, it goes to the registrar's office. So just to kind of let students know that the process, there's the paperwork process for these internships, and that, again, you don't register yourself. It's, again, through approval process for the internship. And again, I know it's a lot of information. Tell students, don't worry, just get the internship, then come to us, and we will meet with you and kind of help you figure out all the forms that need to be completed and the correct people to speak to. And we always tell students, if you're not sure if your internship meets the guidelines of your degree, go right to the internship coordinator and you speak with them beforehand, just so that you don't get so further down the road that then you have to retract. So they're always there to assist you. And I think for this part, and again, we're here to help you. We always encourage students just to meet with us if you have any questions about, how it applies to your degree. You are billed tuition. We let students know. The internship has to live within the start and end dates of the semester. So that's very important. The internship that you're applying for, you can't come to us and say, hey, I did one in the summer. Can I count it for the fall? No. So you need to make sure that when you're asking for credit for the internship, it's before you actually start the internship as well. And again, the internship has to start and end within the semester dates. as well. So yeah, I would say this is kind of the academic services part. Absolutely. If you have any questions, never hesitate to contact us. We're more than happy to help you along the way.
So on that note, I had promised you that we'd have a short pause for any questions that anybody might have for Nicole on the specific step-by-step process to do an academic internship. Is there anybody who has a question that they'd like to share? And if not, I am happy to introduce our faculty internship advisors. So keep marinating on those, just may need a little bit more information before figuring out what questions that you may have. So I think, did I just lose my presentation? Hold on just for a second. Okay, sorry about that. So we have Professors Claude Cicchetti and Scott Boss. So passing it on to you, professors.
Sure, I'll start off. So you can see I have a beard now, but I am in fact still Claude Cicchetti. I'm program director of the Masters in Finance and internship coordinator for finance internships. And yeah, exactly as Nicole said, I mean, the process from our perspective is first, and again, I'd echo what Nicole said, the most difficult part is actually getting the internship. And once you have that, the process is pretty straightforward. You have the dates, you go to academic services, and you need their approval first before I can, or Scott can sign our approval onto it. And then just so you know the process, it then goes to the dean to sign, and then it then goes directly to the registrar. So effectively, from your perspective, once you send it to Scott or myself or any of the internship coordinators, it's then handled by us, and it ultimately goes to the registrar. Within, perhaps a week or two after you submit the form, if you don't see it populating your workday, the contact point would be the registrar's office to see, if there's any holdup or whatever. So, I'm happy to take questions, but I'll just sort of talk, which is what we do as professors, right? So one of the things I could say in terms of getting an internship, obviously we have an amazing career services department. Laura Aiken, Audra, the entire team are fantastic in terms of getting you ready so that your resume is up to standards, your LinkedIn profile, your networking ability and accessing Bentley alumni, that's extremely important. And I know something that they always suggest that I'd echo as well is, going through LinkedIn, incredibly powerful tool to access specific people that might be Bentley alumni, that might be working in the field or the geographical area that you're looking for. What I always tell students is imagine, you've graduated Bentley and you're 10 years into your career and somebody that's a current student at Bentley reaches out to you, what would you do? And you go, well, I'd help them. Of course I would. I'd be thrilled to help. Well, that's how they feel. And we get a lot of great responses from alumni when they have students reach out to them. So, it's one of the neat things, we talk about this in admissions during a recruitment process. The fact that Bentley is a university that's been around for over 100 years in accounting and finance means we have a very deep alumni network, not just in Boston, but around the US and around the world. And you definitely want to take advantage of them. But it also means that you put in a lot of time to really network aggressively. As Nicole said, the process itself is very straightforward. The challenging bit is actually getting approval, and getting an internship.
So I can add to that a little bit, I guess. I'm a new internship coordinator in accounting. Karen Osterheld, many of you may have chatted with her, is retiring this next year. So I've taken over, and I have she has very large shoes that I'm trying to fill. Along the same lines of what Claude said, really the most difficult portion of it is getting the internship, but I will give kudos to the career services folks. They are amazing. Please make sure that you talk with them, work with them. Doesn't matter whether you're whether you are domestic or international. One of the things that I would like, I do want, especially in accounting, one of the things you need to make sure of if you're international is if you'd like to stay in the United States, you do need to make sure that you talk or find out about the whether or not they're willing to sponsor you when you're selecting the internship. So some of the big four do, some of the big four do not. Some of the if we bump it up to the big six, two of them do not. At least I think 4 of the 6 don't. But so I mean, pay attention to that. And then the other thing is make sure that for looking at your internship for credit, make sure that the internship focuses on what your actual job, what your actual major is. It's sad when I have to say, well, no, I'm sorry, that doesn't really qualify. The other thing that people have come up with is if you want to do an internship one year and an internship the next year, they do have to be 2 different types of jobs if you want to get credit for both of them. So I had some students who were staying at the same company, but what was really kind of fun is that they did the internship in the fall and it was all Sarbanes-Oxley 404, controls auditing, and now they've moved over and they're doing the tests of details and balances auditing at the end. So it's 2 different internships, so you're able to get credit for both of them. And in terms of the process, I'm still learning the process, and I'm trying to do some things to help us streamline that, and I'll probably reach out to Claude to see if we can find some way to manage the emails. But please feel free to talk with us about any issues you have around the process.
Sure. One thing I can add too, just thinking about it, a lot of times there are questions as to what types of internships can apply to different programs. If you're doing an MBA and you have a finance concentration, you can use FI 701 internship toward the finance concentration. And that's very, very common. And I'm sure that's true of all the different programs. So you don't have to be an MSF student to take a finance internship.
Claude or Scott, or Claude and Scott, I know we have a few slides here that speak to the 701 versus the 590, the 3 credit versus the 1 credit. Can you share a bit from your perspectives? I know you're, Claude, you're focused on finance, and Scott,
Sure.
from an accounting perspective, but in general, it sounds like there might be some suggestions that you can talk about that differentiate the 2.
Sure. One of the things I could say, as Nicole said, part of the reason that FI 590 is there is to give international students the ability to do a second internship. And the cost of it is only 1/3 of the cost of FI 701 or AC 701 and so on. The deliverables are quite a bit less. The supervisor evaluation is obviously important, but overall, the idea of it is, and I'm certainly not an expert, maybe Brittany can talk a little bit about requirements, but for international students, in order to do an internship under the CPT program, it has to be an internship for academic credit. And so this is the shell, this is the academic shell for credit. Obviously, 1 credit doesn't really add anything towards your degree, but it gives you the ability to actually do an internship for credit. So in terms of the requirements, very much the same as Scott was saying, it has to be different than the other internship. You, in fact, don't have to do 701 in order to do 590. You could only do 590 if you want to. If a 3 credit internship costs the same as any other 3 credit course. If you don't want to give up the 3 credits, if you actually want to take an academic course, then you could only do the 590 internship if you'd like. So that gives you some additional options.
My apologies. I just want to interject just to make it clear. The 3 credit counts toward your degree. The 1 credit does not count toward your degree. So just to differentiate so students understand, if you think, oh, I want to do a 1 credit, that's fine, but it will not count towards your degree requirements because all the courses at Bentley are 3 credit courses. And again, the 1 credit, as we've been talking about, is kind of an anomaly for students on F1 visas. So just to clarify.
And just another question from my perspective that may be helpful. I know students typically will ask when they receive an internship offer, and sometimes the opportunity may or may not meet your expectations. How do you actually determine if an internship is worthy of credit? What are your specific criteria? Or do you have suggestions for the students with regards to that?
Would you like me to take that one first?
Sure.
So with the AC, the accounting internships, it depends on the type of, sometimes it's really easy with the firms, and I'm still getting to know everyone and the people who we're working with, but the big 6 accounting firms, those are definitely accounting internships. Now, if you're doing the analytics master's program, it does have to be in analytics. So that should be in part of your offer letter. But for the most part, if you're working with an accounting firm, that's going to be a really quick one. If you're working with someone in industry, I typically will follow up with and talk with your supervisor who talked with you, or who's hired you, and just to follow up to make sure that it does fall within the organization or within the degree. So I'll typically do some follow up with that as well.
Yeah, our process in finance is pretty much the same. We recognize that there are lots of different types of finance internships. Some might be in investments, some might be in corporate finance, some might be moving more toward a hybrid of finance and financial analytics. So I would say we're reasonably flexible. And for the hours, we're flexible there as well. I mean, what we're really looking for is the quality of the internship. If it happens to be 180 hours, we're not going to deny it. What we really want to make sure is that, for example, you might have an internship at a financial firm, but if all you're doing is looking up names of high net worth individuals so that somebody else can cold call them, or you're doing cold calling, that's not really a financial function. So, we want to make sure that you're doing something of value. And in a lot of cases, well, not a lot, it's actually rare for us to have problems with an internship. But if we do, if it's exceptional, oftentimes, we'll reach out to the supervisor. And once they recognize what Bentley students are capable of, they'll often enhance the internship responsibilities. So it works out in your favor. So, it's nothing, I wouldn't be concerned about it when you're in the application process. We always try to make it work. We're not looking to deny, we're looking to make sure that it works.
There is a question here from Nina that speaks to, can you please talk about HF 790? Is it 1 or 3 credits? So I think, Nicole, if you could address, I think people are confused about what is 701, what is 590.
Yeah, so each degree has a different academic number associated with the internship. So some internships are considered 701, some are considered 790. So what you need to do is look at your specific degree requirements, and then on our website, we show you, if you're this degree, this is what the internship course number is. So for those who are in HF, it's HF 790, and those in accounting, it's 701. But again, you don't have to commit that to memory, but just know anything that's considered a 3-credit internship is going to be, the course number is going to be 700, whatever that may be. And then if it's a 1 credit, it's considered, it'll have the designator of 500 in front of it. And again, you can always look to our website. We do show you for each specific degree what that internship course number would be. And again, it's different from each program. And just to confirm, just to let everybody know, you're only allowed to do 1 3-credit internship per degree. And the 1 credit, you're only allowed to do 1 credit. So again, you're only allowed to do 1 3-credit for your degree, and only allowed to do 1 credit. And I'm I just want students also to know the 1 credit really is for students on F1 visas. Domestic students, you gain nothing if you do a 1 credit internship. Basically, you're paying the university money to take an internship, and you don't need it for any academic credit. It's really more toward students on F1 visas. So again, if you're domestic, you're really looking at the 3 credit internship. But I don't want you to get worried about that. You know, I would say really focus on finding the position. And again, my job is more than happy. My office can help you figure out, should it be a 3 or 1 and what makes sense.
Mhm. One other question for the faculty internship advisors has always been around continuing then the internship. So say they do an internship for the semester, the employer wants them to continue. Can they do that? How do they do that? And again, Nicole's looking at me like this is maybe mine, but who would like to answer that question?
I mean, I can start with it. I mean, please keep working for them. We love it when when people, I mean, when organizations say, hey, Bentley has great people, we want to keep them on. The only thing is you just don't get credit for it. They'll continue to pay you, which is good. And I'd also point out what Nicole said, if you want to pay us for the 1 credit internship, we're happy to take your money, but you don't really have to do it. But for the domestic students. But I mean, please continue on with it. You just don't get credit for it. That's all.
Yeah, I think we probably should have Brittany and Nicole talk a little bit, because I agree. It certainly is very helpful and helpful for your career, but it's students on an F1 visa that have to be very careful. We know that when you're applying for CPT, the internship dates must be within the parameters of the semester, and there's actually a special form if it's going to go outside the dates of the semester. So continuing on has to be approved in advance. And if you want to continue it beyond those dates that have been approved in the CPT application, it has to be a separate internship. And so that's where we get from using the 701 and then perhaps using the FI 590. But the problem there is you have to make sure that the responsibilities are different in order for it to get approved. So it is somewhat complicated for administrative reasons, for CPT reasons. But again, when we've had that come up, we do everything we can to try to make it work, because it's certainly a good thing to keep working for a firm. I don't know if maybe Brittany or Nicole, you can talk to the CPT aspect.
Oh, actually, Brittany is going to be speaking to the CPT aspect just in a minute. So
Okay.
let me just ask Nicole, did you have anything else to add, or are you all set? Does that make sense? Yeah, all set. So again, domestic students, again, this really doesn't apply to you, agreed. And then again, this continuing on and doing a 701 and a 590 is really more of an international situation that probably Brittany will clarify in a minute. I do have one question. From May actually asks for the MSAA program. Do students have the option to do either an accounting or an analytics internship? How do you choose? How do you and Scott, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay, so I was sorry, I was typing a response in the chat.
Mhm.
So May, you actually, if you are doing the MSAA, so if you're doing an analytics, it does have to be an analytics. You can't do an accounting internship. That's just part of the degree itself.
Mm-hmm. And I think that goes along with any internship that you find, secure, are interested in. The party line is really speak to your internship advisor and have that conversation to see what will work and what won't. Anybody else have any other questions for our faculty for this faculty portion? Feel free to put it in the chat, or just remember that we are going to be here after the quick presentations are through. So what I will do now is, we were talking about international students. And so I'm just going to introduce again, Brittany Mackey for a few minutes to share some slides specifically for international students, but certainly I think it's good knowledge for all students to know. So Brittany, how about if you start us off with this?
Hi, everyone. There's been so much anticipation leading up to my portion of the presentation. I do want to address what Claude was talking about just while it's fresh in everyone's mind. For international students, the CPT portion is considered a work authorization, as this first slide says, and it's really important to follow these guidelines if you're on an F1 visa because you risk jeopardizing your F1 status. So as both the professors have said, you know, your internship does need to be linked to an academic course. Your primary focus being here on an F1 visa is to study. CPT is an adage that comes with having the F1 visa, but as everyone else has said, please just check with us. If you have a question, email is the best way. More than happy to you know, clarify things. But I'll start. What is CPT? So it's the short form of curricular practical training. It's a work authorization for internships, as I mentioned, within your field of study with an on-campus employer for credit. So all of that's included. If you are working or interning on campus, speak with us. We can clarify any questions around that as well. It's authorized on a semester basis. So glad to hear colleagues reinforcing that. So it does need to be within the dates per the semester. Right now, I know sometimes that's a little iffy. The semester dates are coming out, you know, just maybe one semester ahead of time, but keep that in mind. Be sure to communicate that with your future employers. It is for both paid and unpaid work. I am also, along with my colleagues, we want to see you get paid. We want to see you be rewarded for the work that you're doing. But if you happen to get an internship that will give you great experience and does not include, you know, financial compensation, you still do need CPT authorization if you're on an F1 visa to take that opportunity. It can be both part-time or full-time, and the only difference is 20 hours. So 20 hours or less is considered part-time, 21 hours or more full-time, and different from an on-campus employment, as I mentioned. And there was one other thing. I think Claude mentioned this for dates outside of the semester. Generally, we do not extend. So you have an internship that goes beyond the dates of the semester, like past the end date of the semester, is very, very rare. Again, you can check with us. However, there are instances where students may begin a little bit before, usually a week before the actual semester dates, and these are usually for tax-related internships, and that is because the tax season is very specific, and there are usually really specific trainings that you must go through. Contact us and we can provide you that extra documentation to complete with your internship coordinator. We can go to the thank you. So who's eligible for CPT? You have to have been enrolled at Bentley for the last 2 academic terms, which we considered fall and spring without gaps. So full-time study during those terms. A reminder that although there are many, many courses available during the summer, and we encourage you to take courses during the summer if you would like, being full-time during the summer does not count toward your eligibility to complete CPT because it is considered a vacation period, an optional period for students to study, F1 students to study here at Bentley. So you were enrolled, if you were enrolled at another US institution for the last 2 academic terms, fall and spring again, without gaps, I'll get to in a minute, you can also be eligible. So this is for students who may be transferred to Bentley, maybe you completed your undergraduate somewhere else and you're coming here for a master's program, or maybe you're having a second master's at Bentley, but you maintained your F1 status. Without gaps, as you see the asterisk, that means that you did not have a leave of absence during that time. You're not coming from OPT, under which you would still maintain your F1 status. You would not be considered an F1 student. So that would be considered a gap if you're on OPT and then you come and do your master's. And then there's another, let's see, extended periods between the programs. So if you previously had F1 status and maybe it's been a year or 2, and now you're in F1 status again through Bentley, your clock, as we kind of call it, has restarted as far as your eligibility for CPT. And then, of course, you have to be in F1 status at the time of application. Some folks go through change of status where maybe you're on an H4 visa or a different dependent visa connected to somebody else in the US that allows you to study. That's fine. However, you do have to already have your F1 visa and be in F1 status. Let me clarify, to be in F1 status by the time you apply for CPT. That differs a little bit from OPT, which we're not talking about today, and which happens after your graduation or upon graduation. But just keep that in mind. So have 2 academic terms of full-time study, fall and spring, and then be in F1 status. The other 2 points, CPT cannot be the only course in your last semester. We point this out because in your last semester, if you are on an F1 visa, you do not have to be a full-time student. You only need to take the courses required or the credits required to complete your degree. If you only need 3 credits, you absolutely can do that. However, those 3 credits could not be just for a CPT course, unfortunately. So that's also a plug here to really work with academic services to help plan out your degree program so that you can see, plan ahead when you expect to complete an internship, to be sure that you have a course to accompany that in your last semester if you will be less than full time. And then lastly, you must have course requirements remaining at Bentley, a little bit of what I just said. Your program cannot be extended for the purpose of CPT. So that's kind of a fancy way of saying you want to do an internship and you have 3 credits remaining, as I mentioned. Or sorry, let me read this again. So this is actually if you've already completed all the requirements for your degree and you land a great internship. We cannot extend your study, so we can't extend your program date and say, oh, actually the student needs another semester to complete this internship. Now, if you have requirements, like course requirements left, absolutely we can extend, but we can't do it just for the internship. In this case, this last point, we would work with you to make sure that you apply for the other post-completion or post-graduation work authorization called OPT. Okay, so here's a snapshot of the process. To reiterate a lot of what my colleagues have said, which is also great to hear. The main thing is that you need an offer letter, and you'll see the points there for what the offer letter needs to include, an official offer letter on letterhead. Everything is digital now, so I know that can be a little bit difficult. Please, we're willing to work with you, but PDF is the best format so that we're just sure that it did come from the employer. And it looks more professional and official. So keep that in mind. The second thing is that you need to apply for approval for the internship course with your internship coordinator of your department. And also it sounds like you should meet with your academic advisor before doing that as well. Complete the CPT application. There are 2 main parts of the CPT application. There's a part you complete all by yourself, and then a second part at the bottom that your internship coordinator needs to complete. I am going to stress that on the next slide in a minute, just because a lot of times I do get the form and your internship coordinator has not signed it and I can do nothing with it. I will kindly reply to you and just remind you that there's another part of the form to complete, but just keep that in mind that you still need another signature to turn in the CPT application. Send it all to our email, ga_ciss@bentley.edu. We ask you to allow 5 business days for processing. I personally am processing CPTs. They're not generally taking 5 days as long as all of the required documents are submitted. However, just keep that in mind as you're planning. So it's important, if your start date's tomorrow and you're turning in your CPT today, just keep that in mind that, you're communicating that with your potential employer, that it should be, you should be allowing those 5 business days again. So keep a look at the calendar as well for when the office is open or closed, when the university is open or closed. But again, to reiterate, the 2 main things are the employer offer letter and the application, CPT application. So everybody's favorite part of some of the changing times. Thankfully, the US government has provided some temporary COVID-related considerations for CPT. So I'm gonna focus on that. Once things change, I'm not sure when that will be, some of this information will change. So just keep that in mind if you're still at Bentley and COVID is no longer as much of a factor, that this slide will likely look different. So in these times, continuing students may participate in remote or in-person internships. So that means you are not an initial student. That means that this semester, spring 2021, is not your first semester in F1 status. If you have questions about that, please reach out to me. Please reach out to CISS to clarify. So any continuing student can participate in a remote or in-person internship with CPT authorization, of course, from anywhere in the US or abroad. And this will likely not be the case for future semesters, as I mentioned. Now, if you are going to participate in a remote internship that is either out of state, so in a different state than where your employer is, or outside of the country, just be sure to communicate that with your employer. There have been a couple of instances where payroll needs to be a little bit different. So somebody didn't lose the internship, but they were just in a different state than their employer. So some considerations to just definitely keep that in mind and be upfront with your employers about that. The second thing is about Social Security offices. So we actually got good news for those who are kind of local to the Waltham area. The Social Security Administration office in Waltham is open and taking appointments in person. This is good because we had some instances where people applied for Social Security numbers via mail and had to mail original documents, which is quite nerve-wracking. You're sending, your passport, which is very, very important document. And, it takes some time to process, and there were some worries about things getting lost. So our information on our website is updated, but you can go directly to the Social Security office's, our Social Security Administration, page. Look for the Waltham information and schedule an appointment that way. Of course, encouraging you to take all the precautions related to COVID to do so, but you will need a Social Security number in order to be paid. So making sure that you keep that in mind. I'm not sure of the timeline, but the earlier you can apply, the better. You will need CPT authorization in order to apply for a Social Security number. So many factors to think of in your timeline. The third point, continuing students studying remotely full-time from the US or abroad will continue to accrue eligibility toward the 1-year academic prerequisite for CPT. So that is your way of saying if you were studying in the US for the first time in fall 2020, last semester, say you went home in March and then you decided not to return to the US for this semester, you were able to maintain your F1 status, which means that your fall 2020 and your spring 2021 semesters will count toward your eligibility to complete a CPT for summer 2021. I hope that all made sense. So that means that for next semester in the summer, you would be eligible to complete an internship with CPT authorization remotely from outside of Massachusetts or potentially outside of the US as well. The last point, if you are a new student, and I think I saw some names I recognized as new students for this semester, welcome. You must enter the US in F1 status before beginning to accrue eligibility. So it's a fancy way of saying you got, I'm sure, a lot of emails from CISS asking you to complete an immigration check-in form. So we just need to make sure to approve that you are in fact in the US, that you've entered on your F1 visa. That is what begins your F1 status. So if you're outside of the US and you have an I-20 from us and you still applied for an F1 visa, that's great that you have the visa, but if you have not entered the US, across the border, your F1 status has not begun. Again, if you have questions about that, please contact us. Happy to share more. I think I have 1 or 2 more slides.
I think that was the last.
Oh, that was the last?
No, this
Okay.
one. Mhm.
Okay, we are completely remote. Our office hours are 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Should say Eastern Standard Time, New York time, if that's clearer. We do have Zoom advising hours twice a day for 1 hour. Again, those times are in Eastern Standard Time. It's the same link every time. The link's visible on our website, and it's also in all the email signatures. So if you receive anything from GA_CISS, scroll to the bottom and you can find the Zoom link there. Feel free to go through our website, lots of information there as well about the entire CPT process, and email and phone are great ways to reach us as well. I saw some questions I think pop up in the chat, but I'm not sure if I kept up with them, so happy to answer.
Laura, can you chime in there? I'm taking a look. I feel like we've addressed them. Did we miss anything, Laura?
I think everything's been addressed.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Wow, that was a mouthful. And I'll just have to say to the students that this was a presentation that unbelievably she was able to take from like 30 slides to just 6. So congratulations, Brittany. You did a great job. I know we only have a few more minutes left, and I'm gonna be the one bringing up the rear in terms of providing some suggestions in terms of tips to finding an internship. So again, in this whole academic internship process, the 4 of us are involved. And the reason why this program came together about 6 or 7 years ago was because students were challenged with meeting all of us. So we thought, well, why don't we put us all in one room together, one virtual room today, and provide some top line information, and then at least you'll know where we are when you actually have questions as you're pursuing internships going forward. So again, I'm hoping that you're finding that this is helpful. So again, in terms of finding an internship, there are lots of ways, and I'm assuming that there are many of you on this virtual call meeting that have taken the GCDI already. So maybe some of this is going to be a refresh for you, but since there are many ways and we only have a few minutes, I'm just going to focus on 2. So the first one is this online search process. So many of you talk about the importance, or this is like the quintessential way for students to find jobs is let's just apply online and see what happens. And certainly it is a good strategy. And here are the different resources. There's so many of them, but that we would highly suggest. So of course, everybody knows Handshake. Everybody on this call should be on Handshake. And I just wanted to share a few stats that 564 job postings were posted for graduate students just this fall 2020 on Handshake. And we've only had Handshake since August, so we were really thrilled that that number was so high. At the same time, we have 671 direct messages to graduate students from employers. So using Handshake has provided the opportunity for employers to engage with you. So it's really important that you create a complete and full profile so that you can be found on this new, really wonderful and robust platform called Handshake. So Handshake is really the primary resource that we would suggest that you use, that we subscribe to. We also subscribe to Vault, which has a wonderful job and internship board and other information with regards to careers. Students often talk about finding opportunities. Claude had said LinkedIn is like one of his favorite things. I've been on many sessions with him, and he always brings up the importance of networking on LinkedIn, but there's also a LinkedIn jobs portion. And in speaking with my colleagues and experience over the years, this is a way that a place that students often find their internship and job opportunities is through LinkedIn. Indeed.com, again, I think is very well known, and it is one of the standard resources that we suggest students utilize. ZipRecruiter as well. And then for international students, I think many of you know, lots of emails shared with regards to the importance of using InterStride, because it is focused specifically on international students and enables you to create target lists of companies where they have sponsored in the past or engaged with international students in the past. If you need more information, more ideas, feel free to just go to www.bentley.edu/GCD. And before I leave the online part of the process, oftentimes, and Laura, feel free to chime in if you have any additional comments, but oftentimes, the online process doesn't reap a lot of response. So I typically tell my students that maybe it's a single digit percentage or maybe 10, 11% of the time you may get a response. And if I asked you right now, I'm sure I'd get oh my goodness, I'm frustrated because they're not getting back to me. I've applied, I've reached out, but unfortunately they're not getting back to you. So this is a strategy. It's a strategy that you should use, but I would suggest 3 things to make it more fruitful. The first is that you target your search so that it makes sense. As opposed, you apply to things that you're interested in, you apply to companies that make sense for you, as opposed to kind of throwing that spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you really should customize your application. So customizing your resume, customizing your cover letter towards opportunities really increases the chance that you'll be the one that they reach out to. And then lastly, the follow through is really imperative. A lot of students just wait as soon as they apply to see if they'll get a response, but oftentimes employers are really, really busy. So if you can help them by proactively reaching out, I always say kind of that baseball analogy of 3 strikes and then you stop. So you try 3 times over the course of weeks, and hopefully they will respond to you with an answer, yes, no, or still thinking about it. So again, those 3 things hopefully will enhance that online application process. And in terms of the second thing, we always talk about the importance of networking. And again, Claude mentioned it during his portion of the talk. And I will emphasize, 70, 80% of the time, students that we speak to, or in my experience over the years, networking is the way that people find their opportunity. I have so many stories of this. So it's really important that you tell everybody that you know that you're looking for opportunities. It can't come to you if they can't help you if they don't know. So here's a short list of the people that potentially you should reach out to first. So family and friends, faculty and staff, your current and prior managers, alumni are key. Professional organization members, and I really encourage that all of you join some, whether they be on campus or external, even in this virtual world. There's a lot of robust networking and connecting and relationship building that's going on. So get out there and be a part of it. People that you meet at the Bentley events, and there's been so many networking events this past fall, Career Conversations being one where we had more than 40 alumni connecting with more than 110 students. And, again, a lot of those opportunities start from those events. Second year students, and I see one of my second year students, Exxon's in the meeting, and so I'll introduce him in a second. But second year students, really, they are great to speak to because they graduate and they may have just done an internship where there's another need, and so it's really fresh in their minds and their contexts are fresh as well. So second year students really are perfect place to do networking with. So again, people hire people that they know. So it's really important that you be that person and that you keep people in your loop, in your network, in your contact, in your process. Okay, so talking about online, the importance of networking at the same time. So let's move ahead and share some of the events that are coming up. There's so many going on. So here's that big handshake logo over here. Go to Handshake. In addition to applying for jobs, seeing what's available, you can make appointments with us and see events that are available. So we do have our spring virtual career fair that's happening on February 10th. I hope that all of you, I raise your hand if you're planning on going or signing up, come on, yay. Sean McDougall, I see you with your hands up, woo woo. We expect to see you there, but not the way that we have in the past. Unfortunately, we love the actual in-person career fair, but these virtual ones really work well. So the Spring Virtual Career Fair, February 10th from 12 to 4. As of Wednesday, all of the schedules and group sessions are open. So you can sign up for a 10-minute session or participate in a group session. All of this has to be organized before February 10th. So make sure that you're on there. This is happening again through Handshake. The Graduate Career Fair is actually taking place on April 1st from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, this is Graduate Career Development's signature event for the spring that Laura's leading this year. And we anticipate having between 25 and 35 organizations specifically for graduate students. And we are going to be using a tool called Brazen instead of Handshake to give you some variety. So make sure to put that on your calendar and plan to attend at least both of these events, if not more. Okay. So here we are. I think many of you know us already. I'm right in the middle. But our team is made up of 5, and we are here to help you. And I appreciate everyone giving us kudos. We love our students, and we invite you to come see us or ask questions whenever you have them. There's so many ways to connect with us. And this is kind of going to be the way I finish up with this segment, is that we do have a new Teams channel, Microsoft Teams channel, and drop-ins that are available Monday through Friday from 10 to 12. We're always there. So if you want to text, if you want a video, we're available again Monday through Friday from 10 to 12. And always, you can make an appointment via Handshake, 30-minute appointments with anybody on the team. We're all able to help all students, so feel free to join us to talk about any of the career topics that you see here. Again, for more information, just to plug again, the bentley.edu/GCD. So now, again, talking to me is one thing. I provide information, but I think it's really more fun to talk to students who have actually been in your shoes just a year prior. And again, trying to figure out at that point in time, where am I going to work? How am I going to do it? And oftentimes I hear so often that this part of the program is really the most interesting in terms of just connecting with your peers. So I think Exxon is the only one here now. I'm not sure if Joyce or Kiki are here, but Exxon, do you mind introducing yourself really quickly?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Exxon, as Audra mentioned. I'd be very happy to talk. I have a Zoom link already shared by Audra, I believe so. Feel free to join and I'll be sharing my experience. Last summer, I interned at Tufts Health Plan. And this summer, I'm interning at Novartis for their FTP internship during the summer. And I'll be very happy to share every step of the procedures and steps that I took to help me come to these points and land these opportunities.
Congratulations, Exxon. Woohoo. I thought you were still in the process with Novartis, but it sounds like.
I actually, today I just received the official offer and everything, so I'll just be signing in.
Hallelujah. Wonderful.
Woo-hoo!
This is woohoo. Laura's excited. We're all excited. Yay. We love Novartis.
Thank you very much.
So Exxon had actually referred to Zoom links. So we will have those 3 Zoom links and we're going to be putting them in the chat shortly, actually soon now. And I don't know if Joyce is here, but if she is, I think so. But Joyce actually, her first name is Min Jiao. Her American name is Joyce Wong, and she has been doing an internship at Plymouth Rock Assurance. And then we thirdly have Kiki Xiao, who actually worked in the Center for International Students and Scholars. Really excited about Kiki's situation because she just graduated. She had been doing an internship with UMass Memorial Health Center, and they also just offered her a position. So, and interestingly enough, I'm looking at everybody on this panel, it just kind of happened, is an international student. Just as an aside. In addition, many students always ask, where else do students work? Where do they do internships? And just a small smattering over the last semester, the last few semesters, that students have worked at some significant organizations, including Deloitte, EY, Schneider, Novartis, iRobot, Staples, the ones that we have here that I've highlighted for you. So just to know that organizations out there hire Bentley interns. And so with that note, did anybody have any questions for this portion of the program? Laura, did I miss anything? I haven't been checking the chat.
No additional questions. I've been blowing up the chat with some resources. So if you haven't been checking it out, be sure to check it out, and great job covering all this great content. This has been terrific, and hope everyone has learned a lot.
Perfect. So Laura, did we put in the links in the chat? Oh, yes, we have.
Sure have. We're ready to go.
Okay. So students, we are at 12:03, so I am proud that usually this goes long. We can talk a long time. So the speakers, Claude, Scott, Nicole, and Brittany, myself, we'll stay in this main room. If you have questions, feel free to stay with us. But for right now, you do have 3 people that are waiting to speak with you. So feel free to bop in and out of them. They will also have all 3 of the links so that you can, again, go in and out and meet everyone. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us. I hope today was helpful. And as I said, we will be here for a little bit if you have any further questions. Have a good one. Thank you.